What's going on, everybody? In this week's technique highlight, we're talking about a technique near and dear to my heart, that being the drop shot. When I'm looking to throw a drop shot, I'm thinking of higher water temperatures, more pressured bodies of water. In my mind, there's two schools of thought, that being an open hook drop shot, and then one where you're Texas rigging drop shot or Texposing a drop shot. But for rods, let's start with the nose hook variety. So in this kind of rod, you're typically looking for something a little bit shorter and a little bit lighter. You've got light line, a really light wire hook. This one happens to be the 610 medium light X Pride from Shimano. It's a super popular drop shot rod. It's very soft in the tip, bends all the way throughout the rod, and that's going to help you keep those fish pinned, hooked, landed with that smaller tackle. So this is a super popular option from Shimano. The other school of thought is a Texas rig drop shot. So typically you want something a little bit longer in that 7 foot to 7'3" range and a little bit more powerful. This is the Jade Python from Megabass and the Orochi X10 line. They call it a medium light, but it's more of a medium to me. It's got a soft tip, but plenty of backbone. So when you're Texposing in plastic, you have all the backbone you need to get the hook through that plastic, get them out of the vegetation if they're, if you're fishing a weed line or something like that. So those are the two rods that I'd recommend. Every manufacturer has a rod similar to these two, but these are some of the more popular ones we've seen around Omnia. Moving on to reels, just about any reel manufacturer will work. The most popular that we've seen are from Shimano and Daiwa. What I'm looking for is a lightweight reel with a great drag. Again, you're using light line. This one from Daiwa is the Tatula Elite spinning reel. This is in the 4,000. I recommend either a 3,000 or 4,000 size reel. You can just have a larger arbor. It picks up line quicker, smoother drag, all of that good stuff. So this reel is super light, excellent drag, a felt drag on this one from Daiwa. So that's an awesome option. And then from Shimano, I went with the Ultegra. It's a little bit easier price point. I think they're around 160 or something like that, but it's got a CI4 body. That's a super popular piece of technology that came down from the Stratic CI4 back in the day. Awesome Shimano drag on it. Either of these two options are going to be perfect for a drop shot. I personally would recommend running braid as your main line. I don't see any benefit really of having a straight fluorocarbon offering. So what I'm looking for in a braid is something around 10 or 8 to 10 pounds, maybe 15 if you want, but something that's an 8 carrier. So Power Pro Super Slick V2, it's an 8 carrier braid, smooth going through the guides, and same thing with Suffix 832, 8 carrier braid. They last a while, and the big thing with braid is sensitivity. So you use braid as your main line, then we get to a fluorocarbon leader in a second, but there's no stretch, you feel everything. It's better in the wind. There's just no downfall really with running braid as your main line. For leader material, we've got a few options. So some manufacturers are out now making their own leader material fluorocarbon. So it's specifically designed to have a little bit more stretch. It can be a little bit thinner because it's not being used as a main line. This gold label from Seagar is an awesome option. It's a little pricey. You only get 50 yards in this spool. That's a killer option there. And then if you want to just use a filler spool, Sunline Sniper FC or Seagar and Vizex, super popular lines. They're tried and true in either an 8-pound test. If you're going with a nose hook drop shot, I'd go with a 6 to 8 pound test depending on how clear your water is. Once you get into that kind of like Texas rig, Texposed worm, you can bump it up to 10, sometimes even 12-pound line. We're moving on to hardware. Again, two schools of thought. We've talked about it, but for hooks, you're going to look at something like this option from Ichikawa. This is their CT5. It's a super small, thin wire hook. This is going to be for nose hooking. So any of your small worms, minnow baits, you can nose hook it. It's going to be free floating, very lightweight, and that's when you're going to want to lean towards lighter line and your more limber rod. The other option, one of my favorites here up in Minnesota, we've got a ton of vegetation, is something like this cover shot hook from Owner. VMC makes a Nico hook that works really well too, but it's got a fluorocarbon keeper, and essentially you Texas rig your plastic and just have the tip of that hook exposed so you can fish clean through vegetation, and you can use bigger line, bigger rod, and have better success getting the fish out of that vegetation. For weight, you're obviously going to need a weight when you're throwing a drop shot. In my mind, there are two options. I use both tungsten. I prefer tungsten. It's more sensitive. It's a smaller package, but a cylinder drop shot weight. This one I really like around grass. It comes in and out of grass really well. And then something like a teardrop. This is kind of the best of both worlds. There's also like a ball style, but I prefer a teardrop or a cylinder. The teardrop, if you're around hard cover, has a larger surface area on the bottom. You get a little bit more feedback throughout your rod. So I would say vegetation, you go with the cylinder. If you're on hard bottom, try out that teardrop. And lastly, let's talk about baits. There are three categories I kind of break them into. That would be your minnow profiles, your small worms, and then for Texas rigging, a large 6-inch finesse worm. So probably the number one drop shot bait that we've seen over the last 3-4 years has been the flatworm from Berkeley. This is their max scent flavor. It's an awesome profile, proven fish catcher. This works from smallmouth to largemouth. Doesn't really matter. This one's going to get bit. This is one that you're typically going to nose hook. Use that smaller hook and lighter line. But they do make a 4.25 version that you could get away with a small Texas rig too. But that's one of our most popular drop shot baits. And sticking on the smaller side of things, a minnow profile. The Baby Z2 has emerged as one of the best minnow profiles for drop shot fishing. Again, a smaller hook. Some people have actually found success threading on a Nico hook. That's one technique that I didn't mention here, but if you take like a size 2 or even smaller Nico hook, you can actually thread like you would on the back of a jig or something. Thread this bait on and have the hook stick out the top. Great option there too from Strike King. And then one of my favorites is a 6-inch finesse worm. So this is from Robo Worm and Morning Dawn. Really popular color and really popular bait. But this one you're gonna more often than not be Texas rigging this with a size 1/0, 2/0 cover shot hook or a Nico hook. This or the X-Zone Deception Worm is another one I really like. Awesome profile for when you're around vegetation. So that's kind of a breakdown of the drop shot technique as a whole. Hope you learned something today and go fishing.